Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to, well, skip the surface noise and get right down to the insights you actually need to
Right.
be properly informed.
That's the goal.
And today, we are plunging into the pretty extraordinary world of someone whose daily routine, frankly, defies almost every expectation you might have of a tech billionaire.
Yeah, it's really something else.
Okay, so picture this. You wake up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your entire day involves just one meal, eaten late in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
You meditate for a full hour in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
and then you do it again, another hour at night.
That's 2 hours right there.
And your commute, forget the fancy car, it's a 5-mile walk
Huh.
through, the busy streets of San Francisco, sometimes chaotic.
Rain or shine, presumably.
Right, and maybe just to sharpen things up. You regularly jump into ice-cold
The
water,
famous ice baths.
and then the
Yeah.
weekends arrive.
And you eat
Absolutely nothing. 0 calories, just water, maybe some tea, black coffee.
for 2 full days.
So does that sound like, I don't know, a monk? Someone living a secluded life, totally dedicated to inner peace?
You'd think so, maybe.
Or does it sound like Jack Dorsey?
Mhm.
Co-founder of Twitter, co-founder of Square, now Block, a guy who's built 2 massive multi-billion-dollar tech companies and is worth billions himself.
It's quite the paradox, isn't it?
He is, you could argue, kind of a modern-day sage figure who's had this huge impact on our digital world, our financial world.
Profoundly shaped them, yeah.
And that's exactly what this deep dive is all about today. We're going to explore how this incredibly disciplined, almost monastic routine didn't just, exist alongside his success, but maybe actively contributed to building these huge companies and accumulating all that wealth.
That's the fascinating question. How does that lead to this?
Exactly. And what can you, listening right now, maybe learn from a life that seems so deliberately chosen for? Silence,
Yeah.
focus, radical discipline, especially in a world that feels, well, incredibly loud and distracting most of the time.
Good question.
So our mission today, as always, is to carefully pull out the most important bits of knowledge, the key insights from all the sources we've gathered. We want to give you that shortcut, that direct path to really understanding this fascinating, often contradictory individual.
All right, let's unpack it. This unusual blueprint for success.
Where do we even start, I guess, with that lifestyle itself? It's just
Yeah.
so different.
It really is striking, isn't it? How Dorsey's whole approach, his entire way of being just stands at such stark contrast to, the stereotype of a tech CEO.
Totally. You think private jets, fancy
Yeah.
meals.
Exactly. Lavish dinners, nonstop meetings, maybe a yacht somewhere. That's the image, right?
Yeah.
But with Dorsey, you get this incredibly deliberate, almost austere lifestyle. And the key thing, I think, from the sources is that it's not just some personal quirk or like a hobby he does on the side.
Right. It feels foundational.
It is foundational. The sources are pretty clear. He actively chose this sort of monk-like existence as the very bedrock for his incredibly demanding job. He saw it as something that enabled his performance, not something separate from it.
That's such a powerful way to put it. It flips the script entirely. And okay, out of all these practices, the one that always seems to grab the headlines, the one that makes people go, wait, what? It's the diet, right?
Yeah.
The fasting.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
a level of intermittent fasting and then prolonged fasting
Yeah.
that most people would find, well, pretty intense, maybe even daunting. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So the weekday intermittent fasting, it's remarkably strict. He allows himself just one meal a day.
One meal.
One. And it's in a specific window, typically between 6:30 p.m. and 9:40 p.m.
Late evening.
Right. And importantly, this isn't him just, gorging himself after starving all day. The meal itself is consistently simple.
Like what?
Usually a piece of protein chicken or fish, something lean, some vegetables, and maybe sometimes a small dessert, usually berry-based. Nothing too processed or sugary.
Okay.
But the critical part is what's absent. No lunch, no snacks during the day, a really strict avoidance of sugar, anything that gives you those energy spikes and crashes. And for him, this isn't really about weight loss or looking a certain way. He talks about it as a tool for mental clarity.
So it's less about the body, more about the mind, the focus.
Primarily, yes. Mastering that feeling of hunger, he believes, sharpens the mind.
Okay, so it's about when he eats, or rather when he doesn't. But I heard it gets even more extreme as the week goes on. Like weekends are a whole different level.
That's absolutely right. Come Saturday and Sunday, he basically takes it up a notch, or maybe down a notch, calorie-wise.
So?
He engages in what's essentially 0-calorie intake for 2 full days, back to back.
Wow, nothing at all.
Sustenance is limited strictly to water, maybe some herbal teas, and occasionally plain black coffee.
Oh.
That's it.
And why? What's the stated reason for, well, starving yourself for 2 days? He's been very open about it. He says it serves to reset his body and sharpen his mind. He has that famous line, hunger brings clarity.
Hunger brings clarity.
Okay.
If you think about it in the context of high performance, these practices, they're fundamentally about discipline, self-control.
Right. Pushing back against urges.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We live in a world just saturated with instant gratification, right? That constant dopamine hit from food, social media, entertainment, it's always there.
Yeah, constantly available.
Dorsey is intentionally creating a state of, let's call it, mild deprivation. And he argues this helps him achieve a higher state of sustained focus, self-awareness, resilience. He's training his body and mind to function without constant input.
Freeing up mental energy, maybe, that we normally spend processing food or thinking about the next snack.
That seems to be the idea, reducing the noise, both external and internal. He's mastering discipline over just chasing that easy dopamine. That idea of deliberately stripping things away, not just distractions, but physical comforts too, to sharpen the internal state. It's fascinating, but okay, it's not just diet. His physical and mental conditioning, those rituals are equally compelling. Let's talk about his commute. Seems mundane, but it's not.
His commute is definitely another piece of this intentional puzzle. You know, most CEOs at his level, they'd have a driver, right? Maybe security.
Standard procedure, you'd think.
But Dorsey, famously, chooses to walk 5 miles every morning through the streets of San Francisco.
Which are not exactly quiet or serene.
Not at all. And he doesn't just see it as getting from A to B. He explicitly calls it part of his mental debugging process.
Mental debugging, like for code.
Kind of, yeah. It's dedicated time, uninterrupted time for thinking, processing stuff, working through ideas. Imagine the sheer volume of things you're juggling running 2 global companies.
Yeah, the mental load must be immense.
So this walk becomes his pre-work ritual. A way to clear his head, organize priorities, get mentally set for the day before the emails and meetings start hitting him. It's like active meditation, moving meditation.
So it's strategic, not just logistical. A mobile thinking session, basically.
Precisely.
And beyond the walking, there's the sitting meditation. And it's not just a few minutes here and there.
No, his formal meditation practice is absolutely central. It's non-negotiable in his routine. He commits to 2 full 1-hour sessions every day.
2 hours, wow.
1 hour in the morning, likely to set intentions, cultivate that presence for the day, and then another hour in the evening, probably to reflect, unwind, process everything.
That's serious commitment.
And this habit apparently got really locked in after a pretty intense experience he had back in 2018.
What was that?
He did a 10-day silent Vipassana meditation retreat.
Vipassana. That's a really strict kind.
Extremely strict. Vipassana focuses on intense self-observation, awareness of body sensations, mental states. And during this retreat, he was meditating for up to 17 hours a day.
17 hours.
Often starting at 4 a.m., going late into the evening, and the rules are incredibly rigorous. No talking, no reading, no writing, no phones, not even eye contact with anyone else there.
Complete sensory deprivation almost. Just you and your thoughts.
Pretty much. It's total immersion in stillness and self-observation. That kind of extreme experience, you can see how it would cement a daily practice. It really underscores his commitment to that inner discipline amidst all the external chaos he deals with.
17 hours a day in silence. It's almost unimaginable for most people, especially someone running global companies. And then, kind of surprisingly, he pairs this deep internal stillness with something very physically intense, the temperature extreme.
Exactly. It's another layer. His daily routine also includes this deliberate hot-cold therapy.
The sauna and ice bath thing.
Right. 2 15-minute sessions in a sauna, immediately followed by a 3-minute plunge into ice-cold water.
Oof, why? Just physical toughness.
Well, it certainly builds resilience physically, but he mainly talks about it in terms of conditioning his body and, crucially, calming and regulating his nervous system.
How does that work? Seems like it would shock the system.
Think about the stress level, the volatility of running major tech companies, daily crises, market swings, media scrutiny, constant pressure.
Don't stop.
Dorsey's idea, based on the sources, is that by deliberately exposing himself to brief, intense physical discomfort, the heat, then the extreme cold, and forcing his body to adapt, He's training his nervous system not to overreact under pressure.
Like stress inoculation.
Exactly like stress inoculation, building a kind of mental and physiological firewall. It enhances composure, allows for clearer thinking when things get really intense in the business world. Controlled stress, to handle uncontrolled stress better.
Okay, so when you put it all together,
Mm-hmm.
the 1 meal a day, the weekend fasting, the 5-mile walking meditation, the 2 hours of sitting meditation, the sauna ice plunge, it sounds eccentric, maybe even masochistic to some.
It definitely sounds extreme from the outside.
But for Dorsey, it's not just a collection of weird habits, it's the whole foundation.
It absolutely is. For him, these aren't just personal quirks. They are, and he's used these words, the foundation of high performance. He's not chasing external highs, that dopamine rush everyone seems addicted to.
Right.
He's rigorously mastering self-discipline. In a world that's just constant noise notifications, demands he actively, consciously chooses silence.
And less, not more.
Precisely. While the culture often screams, do more, faster, more meetings, more stuff, he deliberately goes for less but deeper. And this whole lifestyle, this commitment to discipline and inner stillness is what really sets him apart. It defines him not just as a CEO, but as a thinker, a strategist, someone building empires while maintaining this almost otherworldly level of mental control.
Which leads perfectly to the next question.
Yeah.
How does all this personal discipline, this focus, translate into, well, money? Into his financial success?
That's a great transition. Because, yeah, while his lifestyle is minimal, his financial success has been anything but. It's easy to focus on the Zuckerbergs or Musks with their flashy spending.
Sure, they get the headlines.
But Jack Dorsey, at his peak, was absolutely playing in that same league, wealth-wise. We should probably touch on the milestones.
Yeah, let's get into the numbers a bit. What was his peak?
Okay, so back in March 2021, this was when he was pulling double duty, CEO of both Twitter and Square. His net worth hit its highest point, $13.1 billion, according to Bloomberg.
$13 billion.
Yeah.
While running 2 public companies.
Yeah, it placed him firmly among the world's wealthiest tech founders then. A really extraordinary display of simultaneous value creation, especially given that minimalist approach we just discussed.
Seriously impressive juggling act. But then, obviously, things changed. Big time.
Yeah.
Especially with Twitter.
Indeed, 2022 was a huge shift with Elon Musk's very high-profile $44 billion acquisition of Twitter.
Right, the saga.
And Dorsey, who had publicly backed the sale, he held a pretty significant chunk of stock, about 18 million shares.
Which meant
A cash payout for him of nearly $974 million from that buyout. A huge liquidity event.
almost $1 billion, just like that.
Right. And following that, his professional focus really narrowed. He formally stepped down from Twitter, obviously, and poured all that energy, all that vision into Block Inc., the company formerly known as Square, his payments and blockchain empire.
Okay, so where does that leave him now, financially? Post-Twitter, full focus on Block. What's the picture today?
As of mid-2025, estimates put his net worth somewhere in the range of $4 billion to $5.6 billion. Still very substantial.
And most of that comes from Block.
By far. The vast majority is tied up in his Block shares. He holds about 43 million shares, which translates to roughly $2.5 billion in market value right now. So Block is definitely the main engine of his wealth today.
But here's the interesting part, right? It's not just the amount, it's what he does with it, or rather, what he invests in. His philosophy seems totally different from other billionaires.
Totally different. And that's where it gets really fascinating because unlike so many others in his wealth bracket who, predictably diversify into luxury assets.
The usual suspects. Mansions, yachts, art.
Exactly. Sprawling real estate, super yachts, private islands, sports teams, maybe vineyards. Dorsey's investment strategy is almost countercultural. It mirrors his lifestyle in a way.
How so? Where does the money go?
It's striking how his wealth deployment aligns with his core beliefs. He consciously avoids pouring money into what he seems to see as just stuff, material luxury. Instead, he is profoundly, almost singularly, deeply invested in Bitcoin and decentralized financial infrastructure.
So not just buying Bitcoin, but building the ecosystem around it.
Precisely. He's committed hundreds of millions of his personal fortune not just into crypto assets, but into initiatives that build the underlying decentralized plumbing. And crucially, he doesn't frame these merely as smart investments for ROI.
It's more than just making money for him.
He sees it as integral to his personal mission, his vision for the future of the internet, the future of society. They're building blocks for a better, more equitable system, not just ways to inflate his personal balance sheet.
That's a huge distinction. It's belief-driven investing, not just speculation. And he's been incredibly vocal about this belief, hasn't he? There's that one quote.
He has been remarkably clear. He famously and powerfully stated, and this is direct from the sources, Bitcoin changes everything. I don't think there's anything more important in my lifetime to work on.
Wow. That leaves zero room for doubt.
None at all. It speaks to a true long-game strategy. He seems largely unconcerned with the day-to-day price swings or the crypto market noise. He's quietly stacking assets, accumulating Bitcoin, building the infrastructure around it, staying laser-focused on his core beliefs about money's future.
Placing huge bets based on conviction.
High-conviction bets, absolutely, on what he sees as the inevitable future of global finance. So while his portfolio might not always be the absolute biggest compared to others at any given moment, the sources consistently describe it as arguably one of the boldest, most mission-driven, and most resilient in the tech world.
Because it's built on that singular focus, that unwavering conviction.
Exactly, which really makes you wonder, how does this intense financial focus on Bitcoin and decentralization play out in his actual strategy, his post-Twitter vision for Block Inc.?
Yeah, that's the multi-billion-dollar question, right? Because when he stepped down as Twitter CEO in November 2021, a lot of people, myself included, kind of thought, okay, he's retreating.
Right.
Stepping back from the crazy spotlight of running a global social media platform.
That was the common interpretation for sure. Looked like a step back.
But reading the sources, that wasn't it at all, was it? It sounds like it was the exact opposite.
Not even close to a retreat. The sources are unanimous on this. His exit from Twitter was a deliberate strategic doubling down.
Doubling down on what?
He wasn't stepping back from tech or choosing a quiet life generally. He was pivoting his entire focus, his immense energy, his resources, towards something he clearly believed was even more foundational, more revolutionary, decentralized finance, and the future of money itself.
Wow. So it was a declaration, not a surrender.
Absolutely. A powerful signal of his commitment to this singular vision he thinks will reshape everything.
So he shifted his whole weight onto Block Inc., formerly Square. How has Block actually changed under his full undivided attention to embody this big decentralized dream?
Under his dedicated leadership, Block has really transformed. It's not just a payments company anymore, though that's still huge. It's intentionally evolved into what the sources call a multi-division ecosystem.
An ecosystem.
And
right?
this ecosystem is actively pushing the boundaries across several critical areas. Payments, obviously, but also crypto. And the really fundamental stuff, open source infrastructure. And all of it is driven by that unwavering commitment to decentralization.
It's not just about easier payments then. It's about changing how money works.
Fundamentally, how it's created, how it moves, how it's stored, with the goal of putting more power back into the hands of individuals, not institutions.
And within this ecosystem, there are specific parts, right? Different divisions doing different things. Let's talk about those. Cash App, for starters, that's already huge. How does it fit in?
Cash App is massively popular, yeah. Primarily known as that peer-to-peer payment app, letting people send money easily without needing a bank in the middle for every little thing.
Super convenient.
But its role in Dorsey's big picture goes way beyond just sending $20 to a friend. It's actively expanding, integrating Bitcoin, buying and selling seamlessly, offering basic banking-like services, providing simple investment tools.
So it's becoming more of a financial hub.
Exactly, a comprehensive hub built with deep crypto integration in mind, making these sometimes complex decentralized ideas much more accessible and user-friendly for regular people. It's like a bridge from the old system to the new one.
Okay, then there's TBD. The name itself sounds intriguing, like to be determined. What's that about?
TBD is maybe the most direct, most ambitious piece of his grand vision for an open financial system. It's described as a decentralized, open source platform.
Open source meaning anyone can see the code.
Right. Transparent, community-driven, and its goal is incredibly ambitious: to build an entirely new, permissionless financial system, one that lets anyone, anywhere, move and store money without relying on traditional banks or, big tech gatekeepers.
So bypassing the existing financial infrastructure entirely.
Essentially building an alternative, parallel infrastructure from the ground up, focused on transparency, user control, and resistance to censorship. It's a really radical reimagining of how global finance could work.
Wow. Okay. And what about Spiral and Bitkey? Where do they fit in this puzzle?
Spiral is a distinct subsidiary of Block, and its job is crucial but maybe less visible. It focuses on nurturing the broader Bitcoin ecosystem. It
Hmm.
funds Bitcoin developers, supports open source projects, invests in tools specifically aimed at speeding up global Bitcoin adoption and making it more useful. It's about strengthening the foundation.
Okay. Infrastructure support and Bitkey.
Bitkey tackles a really critical need for individuals in crypto. Self-custody, holding your own keys.
Taking control of your own assets, basically. Not leaving them on an exchange.
Exactly. Bitkey is a physical and digital Bitcoin wallet designed to give users complete, ultimate control over their own crypto. No intermediaries, no third-party custodians needed. This focus on self-custody is fundamental to decentralization. It's about true digital ownership and financial sovereignty, a core principle for Dorsey.
Okay, so when you bring all these pieces together, Cash App making it accessible, TBD building the new rails, Spiral supporting the core tech, Bitkey giving users control, what's the big picture? What's Dorsey's vision of freedom here, and why is it so different from where big tech seems to be going?
Stepping back, yeah, the overarching vision is absolutely about freedom, financial freedom, digital freedom, individual sovereignty. He has this deep belief, almost unshakable, that the internet was meant to be decentralized, an open network where value and information flowed freely.
The original promise of the web.
Right. But in his view, that vision got hijacked by big tech. These huge centralized companies that collect massive amounts of data and exert increasing control over our digital lives, our financial interactions.
So his work at Block is about reclaiming that.
It's a direct effort to reclaim that original promise, empowering users by building these open protocols, transparent systems, accessible financial tools that anyone, anywhere can use without asking permission or fearing censorship.
It really sounds like he's swimming against the tide, doesn't it? When you see everyone else racing towards AI, more data collection, more centralization.
You absolutely nailed it. That's a crucial point. The dominant trend in Silicon Valley right now is often about advanced AI, sure, but also what critics call surveillance capitalism, where collecting and analyzing user data is the main profit engine.
Yeah.
Jack Dorsey is deliberately, conspicuously going the other way. His focus is squarely on sovereignty, privacy, digital self-ownership.
And he's not just talking about it.
No way. It's deeply action-oriented. The sources stress this. He doesn't just shout this vision from a stage. He actively builds it line by line, protocol by protocol, team by team, pouring his resources into making this decentralized future real.
And that belief in Bitcoin as the internet's native currency, that seems like the guiding star for all of it.
It is, unequivocally. He says it often. The internet needs a native currency, and I believe it will be Bitcoin. That conviction doesn't just shape his investments, it connects everything Block is doing.
So his post-Twitter career isn't a step back at all.
Far from it. It's framed accurately, I think, as a leap forward into a future that, frankly, very few people are even thinking about yet. He's not just playing the current game, he's building the stadium for a whole new one.
Based on this radical, decentralized vision, which, considering how dedicated he is to it, makes you wonder, how does this translate into how he actually leads? How does he run things day to day?
Yeah, that's the perfect segue. Because just like his lifestyle, Jack Dorsey never really fit that traditional CEO mold, did he?
Not at all. No power suits, no big flashy keynotes, none of that endless meeting culture you hear about.
Right. His leadership approach seems just as minimalist, just as intentional as his personal life.
Consistent, then.
Incredibly consistent. His personal philosophy of less but deeper seems to flow directly into his professional methods. He really never looked or acted like a traditional CEO. His style at both Twitter and Block is consistently described as being centered around clarity, relentless focus, and minimalist execution.
It's not just style, though, is it? It sounds like a system.
It absolutely is. A highly structured system designed to maximize strategic thinking and output by ruthlessly cutting out mental clutter and operational drag. It shames how deeply integrated his beliefs are.
And maybe the most famous example of this, the thing that let him run two huge companies at the same time, is that themed day model. That just sounds like a superpower for managing complexity.
It really is ingenious and incredibly disciplined, instead of trying to juggle everything all at once, which is how most execs burn out.
Yeah, context switching constantly.
Dorsey rigorously assigned each weekday to one specific domain. So Monday, all management, one-on-ones, team meetings, strategy reviews.
Okay.
Tuesday was purely product, features, design, user experience. Wednesday, marketing and growth. Thursday, hiring, culture, making sure the team was right. And Friday was reserved for the big picture. Strategy, long-term vision, undisturbed, deep thinking time.
Wow. To actually stick to that.
The discipline required is immense. He applied this exact structure to lead both Twitter and Square simultaneously for years. Without the mental overload or context-switching fatigue that would crush most people, it's a remarkable demonstration of that less but deeper philosophy in action.
Absolutely incredible. Just imagine having that level of focus on one area for a whole day. And it sounds like his communication style follows the same principle. Streamlined, minimalist.
Absolutely. It's a direct reflection of that whole philosophy. He actively avoided unnecessary meetings. He saw them as huge time wasters, productivity killers.
Most people would agree with that.
Right. Instead, he strongly preferred asynchronous communication. Written stuff, emails, memos, using collaboration tools that was intentionally short, clear, and to the point.
Get the message across, no fluff.
Exactly. He once said his reasoning was, I want to build tools that allow people to work without constant interruptions. And this wasn't just about saving time like a productivity hack, it was philosophical. He genuinely believes the best work, the most insightful creative work, comes from deep, undistracted thinking, not from that state of shallow busyness, constant reactivity, fragmented attention, endless talk.
He wanted to create space for thinking, not just reacting.
Precisely. For his teams and for himself.
And this dedication to deep thinking, avoiding distraction, it wasn't just at the office, right? It extended into his personal space, his digital life too.
It did, and it really highlights his consistency, his physical environment, his digital habits. They're direct reflections of this commitment to clarity. His home, for instance, is described as super clean, almost empty, just the essentials.
Minimalist to the core.
Right. Stripping away material clutter to avoid mental clutter.
Yeah.
And his phone, that thing that distracts almost everyone, managed with extreme intent, all notifications off, often used in grayscale mode to make it less appealing, less attention-grabbing.
Grayscale mode. That's dedication.
And zero tolerance for digital clutter. Culling apps, files, anything not serving a clear purpose. And underpinning all this external minimalism, of course, is his mind kept sharp through the daily meditation, the fasting, the intentional silence.
So the cumulative effect.
Yeah.
It's not about frantic activity.
Not at all. Jack Dorsey doesn't chase big results through chaos or multitasking. He achieves them through discipline, through cultivating that inner stillness, through radical clarity. He basically proves that real leadership, real impact, requires focus and philosophy, not just noise and motion.
It's a powerful case for a different kind of leadership, focused inward, not just outward. Which brings us nicely to his wider cultural influence, because he's become more than just a tech founder now, hasn't he? He's kind of a symbol.
He absolutely has. He's really evolved into what the sources call a countercultural icon, especially in a world often obsessed with noise, speed, and showing off status.
Yeah, contrast him with other billionaires.
Exactly. While others flaunt the mansions, the rockets, the luxury brands, Dorsey consistently chooses the opposite. And ironically, it's that quiet, understated path building and thinking in silence that's earned him this huge admiration from entrepreneurs, creators, thinkers. People are noticing the choice to be quiet.
And you really see that influence rippling out, especially with younger people starting out. He's become this kind of archetype.
He really has. On platforms like TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Reddit, places where trends catch fire, Jack Dorsey gets cited all the time as the archetype of the quiet billionaire.
The one who makes a huge impact without all the drama.
Exactly. Without the chaos, the self-promotion, the superficial stuff. His unique mix, the minimalist life, the mental discipline, that almost spiritual belief in decentralization and sovereignty, it's forged a new kind of leadership blueprint.
And that resonates with younger generations.
Deeply. Especially Gen Z, millennials. They seem increasingly drawn to mental clarity over just hustling till you drop. They value freedom and autonomy more than just fame. They want depth over distraction. And these are the exact values Dorsey has championed through his actions for over a decade.
So he's not just changing tech or finance, he's actually shaping the conversation about what success even means today.
Precisely. His practices, his ideas, his choices, they've undeniably sparked major conversations way beyond Silicon Valley about the dangers of attention addiction, about digital minimalism for focus, about financial self-sovereignty, about mental health for high performers under pressure.
Important conversations.
Vital ones. And if you zoom all the way out, you could say Dorsey's leading a cultural shift. Not just in how we do tech or money, but in how we define success itself. His life is basically proof that you don't need to be loud to be legendary, and that maybe in this incredibly noisy world, silence. That's the new power.
Wow. What an incredible, really illuminating deep dive into Jack Dorsey. As we start to wrap this up, the big takeaway for me, the thing that really stands out, is that he didn't just play by the existing rules of success. He completely rewrote them. Quietly.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a world screaming for more stuff, more attention, more speed card, he deliberately chose less. While everyone else seemed to be running faster, caught in some endless race, he intentionally slowed down, found power and stillness. And in a culture obsessed with visibility, with constant self-promotion, maintaining that perfect image, he chose silence, solitude, sovereignty.
And it's crucial to remember, as we discussed, this wasn't him retreating from the world. It was a conscious strategy, a different way to engage, to have impact.
Right. He didn't abandon building things or influencing things.
Not at all. He kept building billion-dollar companies. He kept shaping the future of money. He still commands global influence, all while sticking to those seemingly extreme practices, the walking, the fasting, the meditating, the ice baths. The paradox holds.
So, the core message for you listening right now. What's the distilled takeaway? Maybe it's that success, real impact, isn't always about doing more, piling on tasks, chasing everything. Sometimes, maybe often, it's about doing less.
But doing that less with incredible precision, presence, and power.
Yeah.
The wisdom from Dorsey's path seems pretty clear, doesn't it? Clarity beats chaos, always. Focus beats noise, every time. And cultivating that inner mastery, that's the real path to meaningful outer results.
You definitely don't need to live exactly like a monk. Fasting for days or taking daily ice baths to succeed in your own life.
Fairly not advisable for everyone, yeah.
But if you want to think more clearly, lead more wisely, build things fearlessly, whatever your field is, maybe, just maybe, you need a little less.
A little less noise, a little less distraction.
A little less. Everything that pulls you away from what truly matters. We'll leave you with that thought to chew on.
Food for thought, ironically.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive. We really hope this exploration into Jack Dorsey's unique and often counterintuitive journey gave you some valuable insights, maybe a fresh angle on what success can look like.
Hope it was useful.
We'll be back next time with another deep dive into the people and ideas shaping our world.